So hi guys, you're very welcome to our Engage People videocast. I guess as part of my working week, I get to chat to lots of great people. I've known Paul Vance of KPMG for a number of years. Paul probably I won't say how long at this point. Paul's a great guest to have on. Paul's the head of resourcing at KPMG, formerly of Intel, going back a few years. And I think, Paul, it's fair to say we've got to know each other primarily actually through Grad Ireland, AHEX, which is the Advanced Higher Education Council, and all things sort of graduate recruitment related. So we'll chat about that and lots of other things. But before we get stuck in, I mean, how's life at your end? It's obviously early July at this point now. We're waiting for the sun to come out, but how's all been going at your end?
Yeah, weirdly enough, working at home is probably okay when the sun is not shining. It's harder when the sun is shining. But yeah, working at home have been since mid-March, and we have a plan to go back to the office on the 1st of September. But we have a phased plan before that. So hopefully we'll be all back in some shape by the 1st of September, and some of us will go back between now and then as well, just to ease into it. It'll definitely feel like a new job, heading back into a new environment and getting used to what that really means, So
Yeah.
interesting times over the next few weeks.
Yeah, very good. And was there a point at which, I mean, obviously it was sort of February, March, and we were chatting earlier saying, look, the whole discussion around remote work has probably been well covered, but just in terms of how you adjusted personally from February, sorry, maybe in sort of January, February, were you set up it yourself for remote working, or has this been a major change for you, or how do you feel you've adapted on that front?
It's definitely been a major change. 100% in the office, 100% home. It's been a big switch. Thankfully, the technology has been fantastic, and the IT guys have been fantastic. And I think that seems to be the general consensus as well. We have discovered applications that we didn't even know existed. And of course, there's been the odd glitch. You certainly miss the social interaction. That's a big thing. I'm a big believer in face-to-face conversations, and you miss that, and it's not the same over technology. But you got to get over yourself, And I think one of the things that I did was a coaching lesson for working online, to be able to manage my team better. That's important. So your skills are very, very different being used over technology versus face to face. The energy, the interaction, the things you can pick up face to face, not necessarily over Zoom or Teams or anything else. That's a heck of a challenge, but I think we're all quite used to it now. I think the first few weeks were, everybody was having Zoom parties and whatnot. And I'm not hearing so much of that anymore.
Yeah.
It's very much work for Zoom, and then, close the laptop on a Friday evening and don't look at it again, So, but I think the adaptation has been good. And I think we're all probably hoping for some middle ground at this stage where we can have working from home, working from the office, and a combination of having that flexibility. I think that will be a treat actually, at this stage.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, what we've seen is like I think with a lot of our clients, depending on the person and what their role is, we have seen people sort of return to work. So we're doing a sort of a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for most of the team, depending on their own circumstances. And just from a collaboration, communication perspective, look, it has there's definite advantages. I think what most people are saying, it's sort of there is work from home in normal times when kids can go to school and there's childminders, etc. Whereas at the moment, it's it's a little bit trickier. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves.
Yeah.
So if we talk about the whole area of graduate recruitment, which I have to say, and we're very lucky, we recruit across lots of different levels. I'm working on 2 or 3 sort of finance director, CFO positions, which which obviously great, particularly in this market. But the grad recruitment space, I've always loved the energy that goes with it. And I mean, it seems to be in Ireland, certainly, and we'll talk about the current marketplace, but maybe up until, say, the start of 2020. So I remember you and I going to the Grad Ireland dinners in 2012, 2013. And I mean, you would have the big 4, some of the legal firms, a couple of the Musgraves, etc. But that room is hopping now, and I guess it'd be good to hear your perspective. I mean, it's obviously, I guess, a more competitive marketplace, but how have you seen it evolve maybe over those years?
Yeah, it's definitely changed. There's no doubt about that. We used to look at our competitors as our direct competitors, the other big accountancy firms and possibly the law firms. That was probably as much as we looked at in terms of direct competitors. Now the ballpark is quite wide and different. And while we, of course, look at our direct competitors, very much looking at the US multinationals, looking for top business grads, it's a great, there's great career options in those areas, particularly as we're looking for the same type of person now as well. So back in the old days, if you want to call them, very much looking at, accounting, business grads. Our focus is still that, but we also have a huge focus on hiring technology grads, so people with a background in STEM. So that means that our ballpark has widened right out. So we're competing with the Googles, the Facebooks, LinkedIn, all of those big names that are in Ireland now. We want also science grads now, so we're competing then with the pharma companies for those type of grads. And salary levels are quite different as well, so we're having to adapt, so what's our traditional model versus what's our new consulting model in terms of salaries and contract types. So a real change has happened over the last 5 or 6 years in KPMG. I think that's been for the better, because we're bringing a huge variety of graduate skill sets into the firm now, and that can only help everybody's development as well. So, you're not hiring from a similar class all the time. You're hiring from almost every class from every university in the country and wider. So that brings its own challenges, but it also brings tremendous talent. So in one way, rising to the challenge has been a real difficulty, and we've been successful in that. But we've had to re-educate ourselves a little bit as well. So, what is it that a STEM student wants? We thought we knew it all, and then we had to re-educate ourselves again. So, and what can we give to a STEM student? And why would they want to work here? How would they even consider us as an option? It's not something when the student was picking that CAO course and getting onto that course for whatever, a master's in data analytics, were they really thinking about KPMG as a future employer? Probably not. Maybe now they are, and we want them to be as well, because it's a big part of what we're going to be doing in the future and what we're currently doing, but less so in the past. And I think that's a response to what clients need as well. And I guess that's part of the ever-changing nature of the workforce as well.
Yeah. And if we look back over the years, so you and I would have conducted various talks with the Advanced Higher Education Council, where we're speaking to third level. It's usually students who are sort of second, third year in college who are deciding what route to go down. What any sort of tips that you feel have changed over the years in terms of do's and don'ts when it comes to that space? So obviously you're at the coalface, you're meeting lots of people, and we'll talk about the current environment now, because obviously it is going to be more difficult. I think I'd imagine grad program numbers are down a little bit, but what sort of suggestions do you make? I mean, and I'm sure you get asked this quite a lot, but so a third year student who, I guess on one hand, is considering their options on how best to decide, and then secondly, what you would recommend that they look to achieve as part of their interview process?
Yeah, well, even before that, I think absolutely key to maximize your time in that university in terms of getting the academic qualification that you're capable of getting. Such an important thing. If you can get yourself the honors degree, you're setting yourself apart all the time. Anything that can differentiate yourself from other people around you, other people in your class, other your friends. So it gets a little bit ruthless when you start to get to the end of your degree, and people are looking at their transcripts and their academic results and what the employers want and how you're going to differentiate yourself. So I think maximizing your academic learning and getting the results you want and can achieve being key. And then along the journey, again, before you get to final year, adding to your skill set, so not to wake up on, the day of graduation and wonder, what am I going to do with my life now? Think of the part-time jobs, how they're going to lead you to that point. It is a continuous process. Your CV doesn't start at graduation point. It starts way before that. Anything you've done from transition year upwards starts to look good on your CV. If it's work experience and it's retail type work, terrific. You can learn so much. Your relationship management skills, teamwork skills, your hard work principles are all built around those part-time jobs, and employers love to hear those stories. And it doesn't matter whether it's all summer or just for a few weeks, but getting out there and getting something like that. Likewise, if you've been lucky enough to get yourself to Vancouver or anything like that, or hope to in the future, work over there. I love to hear those stories. I went over, I had a bit of fun, I worked, here's the kind of work I did. So it was mutually beneficial for future employers, yourself, everybody's a winner with that. And don't just think about it as, oh, it was some retail job, I was, not really a decision maker. No, it's not about that. It's about, interacting with people, building your confidence, growing your responsibilities in a job, demonstrating that, you have a can-do attitude and you're adaptable. Like huge things. All employers want at this stage is the ingredients. So the academic stuff, great. Yeah, we can see that. That's black and white. And what are the other ingredients that then an employer can start to hone and develop and shape in your career? And having evidence of that is such an important thing. It's one thing saying to somebody, well, listen, I have great teamwork skills. And it's another thing saying, well, I've got great teamwork skills, and here's an example of when I demonstrated that. And employers love to hear that. And if you can bring anything to the fore there that sets you apart from the next candidate coming through the door, then fabulous. Yeah. So probably jumping ahead a little bit, or jumping backwards maybe a little bit on your question.
Yeah.
I think the graduate market has changed a lot suddenly. So we've gone from being a graduate market as of January 2020 to probably an employer's market right now. And I don't know what the next 6 months is going to hold. So probably the number of graduate positions will reduce over the next number of months. Hopefully that'll be a short-term thing. We certainly have been in a position where employers have been, fighting and vying for the best graduates in the country and further afield. There will be less opportunities, certainly over the next 6 months for graduates. That's not to say that that'll be everlasting. I mean, we've come out of a huge boom for graduates over the last few years. It's been crazy, the amount of positions that are on offer and the variety of positions. And graduates, in some cases, have been accepting 2 or 3 jobs and then wondering which one will I take when it gets near graduation time. So that's going to be a real culture shift. But there's huge opportunity as well. Like, what's stopping you from taking that year out, hopefully doing a little bit of travel if things ease up? What's stopping you from doing a master's? Maybe someone will sponsor it, So enhancing your skills. So yeah, the market may have changed, but there will be jobs there, and there's other opportunities to change your skill set or hone your skill set. Find out what's relevant. We have a lot of people doing a master's now. We've over 100 people doing sponsored masters, and they'll join us in 2021. And they're people that all thought the same thing. Okay, well, have I got a better chance of joining KPMG or another firm in 12 months' time rather than right now? Yeah. And some of them are even thinking about, well, maybe my experience will be better in 2021 than in 2020, because with social distancing, working from home, the experience may not be as positive. So I guess graduates are smart kids, right? So they're thinking ahead here. And I love to see that people are thinking, you know what, if I do a master's, somebody else is gonna cover me off. I have another year to build my CV, and I'll get a better experience when I join the firm, and probably at a better level as well, coming in with those extra skill sets picked up through a master's.
Yeah. And I often remember you when we were speaking to the students, you were talking about the value of, being able to have a chat and saying, I was doing this. So exactly what you've mentioned there, rather than saying, look, I did 3 months in a shop. It's, it's being able, I guess, to articulate, the skills you learned and how they might be transferable. I mean, one of the things that from our side that we, it's always a tricky one, right? Where you meet some clearly very good academics, but their interview skill set is just, it's there's maybe an underlying lack of confidence there, or their ability to articulate it. And sometimes you desperately want them to do well. And I think what some companies have, if they've maybe, in addition to do sort of a typical interview. There's some other sort of testing process that people do, and it maybe directly at graduate level because someone's just been through a fairly sort of strict academic process. That layering more sort of tests on top of that may be less relevant. But what advice would you have, Paul, for someone who is approaching the market? I mean, so you have some extroverts who are absolutely brilliant at interview and they promise the sun, moon, and stars, and may not be able to deliver. But then maybe you have more the sort of the introvert type who an interview, maybe the skills, the communication skills don't come as naturally to them. And anything that you feel, if there was 2 or 3 things that you can definitely get right that'll help when they're sitting in front of the likes of myself and yourself?
Yeah, listen, everybody's nervous at interview, and I think people who doubt themselves think they're the only guy or girl that's nervous. Everybody's nervous. So, take that one off the table. Okay, so that's the first thing. You got to think then, okay, well, why are you nervous? It's because it's important to you. Okay, great. If it's important to you, don't just turn up on the day for that interview. Do your research. So you've spent 3, 4, 5 years in college. The hard yards are done. Somebody believes in you and they've called you for an interview. That's a nice starting position to have in your head. They think you're good enough for this job. So that's number one, right? So belief is a huge thing. Yeah. It's something I was told as a kid as well when I was starting off. Don't leave it behind you at an interview. And it was about bringing your belief and your best game. I often apply the analogy of a sporting analogy in these situations. Do you want to be on the field influencing the game, or you just want to be on the field playing the game? There's a big difference in influencing the game, and an interview is a little bit like that. And it's easy for me to say this, at this stage. But interviews are never easy, no matter which side you're on, right? Whether you're a candidate or even an interviewer. But I'm a huge believer in doing your research in advance and anticipating what the interviewer is going to ask you. You're not going to get it 100%, but you have a good chance of getting it 70 to 80% right. So, what skills are they looking for? What questions are they going to ask you? Any internet search will tell you a lot of the basic questions an interviewer will ask. The number one reason why graduates don't get a job is career motivation. Now, that might sound a little bit funny. I put on the suit, I've arrived on time, I'm sitting in front of you, and what you're thinking is, this guy, this girl doesn't want the job. Yeah. How is that possible? But large organizations particularly invest a lot of money in their graduate programs. So they want people to absolutely, invest in the company, and we'll invest back. And by investing in the companies, you're going to commit to it. You don't want to invest in somebody that, I think this is okay for a few months and maybe I'll do something different in 6 months' time or whatever it is. I want somebody, if we're going to invest in them, that they're going to invest in us, in their time and their energy and their development. And we'll give it back in spades. And we spend millions on graduate recruitment every year in their development and bringing them to be business professionals. So getting back to my point about career motivation, well, what is it that this company values, and where does that align to my values? That can be found on the job spec, and it can be found on the website, where company values are displayed quite easily with a simple search. Job spec, people apply to the job, but they kind of put the job spec behind them. Don't look at it again. What that company, what that interviewer are looking for, it's based on the job spec. This is scientific stuff. This isn't somebody made up a job spec on the back of a handkerchief. This is real stuff, right? So have a look at the key things that they're calling out, and then, okay, I see they're looking for problem-solving skills. When have I demonstrated that? Think of an answer. Okay, imagine the question, think of the answer, get a good example of when it has happened, park that in your back pocket. What else are they looking for? They're looking for good communication skills, whatever it is. Some of that will be observed communications, and some of that will be examples in the interview. Again, think of a good example. Again, relationship management skills. Sounds quite convoluted. Oh, hang on. I worked in a cafe over in Vancouver, and I dealt with a difficult customer. And actually, by the end of it, the customer was really, really happy with me, and my manager complimented me on it. Now, that's happened to a lot of people. I love to hear those stories when I'm interviewing candidates, and it's such a basic thing, but it says something about, your willingness to satisfy the customer and have them going away feeling pretty good about their experience, and what's most important, coming back again the next day, right? So again, put that in your back pocket. That's another thing that, I don't care what job it is you're going for, you're going to be asked about your relationship skills with customers. Everybody loves somebody who will be committed and be a hard worker. Yeah. And you will actually, you let other things slide if you think that this person is going to give it all and be committed to the job. So any examples you had where you've gone the extra mile, and if you've done it in a job, great. If you've done it on the sporting field, great. If you've done it in debating, charity work, anything like that, those things are really, really key.
Yeah, and I think it's being able to bring it, as you say, having if the first time you think about answering these questions in an interview, you're probably not setting yourself up for success. And just in relation to the process then over the last sort of 5 years or so, so we spoke about technology at the start. So we invested in a video interview platform at the start of January. Thankfully, we did, and I have to say it's been extremely helpful. So the process it's reasonably similar. So we recruit a lot of qualified accountants, actual part qual more on the industry side, and then qualified accounting roles. So the client would request the CVs, we agree on who the preferred choices are, and then one of my colleagues conducts a sort of a 20-minute conversation, and we just find the whole process is speeded up significantly. And it means from the candidate perspective that there's a lot of time invested going to interviews, and if there's not going to be a fit there, how would you see things change, or is there anything over the last maybe few years that you feel technology-wise has speeded things up for you guys?
Yeah, it certainly has, just in terms of, the application form, the assessment before even people are brought to interview. And I guess, the old days of the application form being handed into reception, it's quite unusual now for larger organizations, so I think that's certainly challenging for some people in terms of, being able to make an impact over video, and everything through technology can be great for some individuals and a challenge for other individuals. What my advice there is to say, don't let this be the first time you've ever done an interview, right? So do a mock interview with a friend, do it in front of the mirror, get the hairbrush out, and be that person where you're talking into the mic, so to speak. Put yourself in that unusual position in a demo mode, rather than, the first time I've ever done an interview, and it's very, very important, and the outcome is on the balance. Well, I'm sure we all have people that we can trust, either a family member or a friend, and using technology there to simulate what that interview can be like. Again, as I say, Google a number of questions. You should have anticipated some of them, and get your friend, hopefully in confidence, to be able to play that back to you as well.
Yeah, and have you, just in relation to, and if it's okay to ask, because I'd imagine, you've probably got, one of the great things about professional services is, and particularly in the accountancy world, is that, when things are going well, sometimes the M&A side's very busy, the audit side's generally busy, and maybe when things aren't cutting as well with companies, there's restructuring, audit is, is required. So I would imagine that, there'll still be people hired. Paul, have you sort of considered remote onboarding, or what are your plans maybe over the next year or so, or is it sort of wait and see in 1st September and then start planning?
Yeah, we're hoping to do a blended approach for the onboarding. So we're working off a 70% in office, 30% at home, and a rotation system happening.
Okay.
And so a blended induction process over 2 months is what we're looking at. This is going to be new to us. Will we be amazing at it first time round? Gosh, I'd love to think so, but it's going to be a challenge for both sides. And the recipients sitting at home on a laptop, very different experience than getting classroom, classroom delivered type learning. That's such a different experience. But thankfully we have the technology to deliver that, and we've had the technology, and we've had remote learning in KPMG for a long time now, albeit we do always have our new graduates in KPMG in classroom type activity. And we hire about 400 graduates a year, so as you can imagine, that's a heck of a challenge. We book out usually a lot of space, both in the firm and in local hotels. And, that's just not going to be possible to bring all those people together. But we will try and bring them together in small pods and small groups, because that's an important element for learning and for networking and for their whole development. So the blended approach, and we're really working on this now and have been for the last number of months to, I suppose, figure out how we can do it well, how we can interact with the business, with the new graduates, and getting that involvement happening.
Yeah.
We actually have a virtual summer internship happening now. And what it really means is interns working remotely, which, is going to be a heck of a challenge for everybody. If you think about it, these interns would have landed this job pre-COVID. So you're thinking, I'm coming into KPMG for the summer. I'm going to spend a couple of months in there. I'm going to learn all about the industry, and I'm going to have a good CV and maybe even a graduate career at the end of it. Now they're coming in for an experience that actually they don't leave their house, and they're probably working out of a bedroom or something like that. Quite a different experience. So we're investing a lot, but you got to acknowledge the experience is going to be very, very different than what people thought they were going to be. But it could be with us for a while, and we've got to make it right,
Yeah. Well, good for you. I mean, and just your commitment to it, because we've all had to adapt. And for the reasons you mentioned there, and it's I have a nephew who's he's doing engineering at the moment now, and I think him and his few pals had various internships and actually some trips and stuff lined up, and it's just obviously been a total game changer. And if I was to ask you then, I guess beyond the graduate space then, and how you see the world of work over the coming years, and this may or may not be something that you guys have sort of looked at or considered, but when I speak to people, and when I say the broader HR profession, I mean, you and I are obviously involved in the sort of the hiring side of things and so forth, and I know there's lots of other parts of your role as well, but it would appear that reskilling and sort of re-engineering of roles over the next 5 or 10 years is going to be sort of at the fore. And I'm just wondering, within the accounting world, technology is changing things a little bit. I think that maybe the nature of the qualified accountant, because sometimes people qualify, they move on to industry and so forth. So maybe you're very comfortable with the cycle that you have, but any sort of thoughts maybe about the future of professional services in that regard, or how you see that those sort of conversations going?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly evolving. There's no doubt about that, and people are looking for, clients are looking for a solution to more than just, their audit requirements, wherever it is. They're looking for business advisors to come in with a complete solution, and that's regardless of what's happening, whether it's normal business, whatever that is anymore, whether it's buying, selling, contracting, expansion, whatever. But they're looking for the complete solution. They're not looking for a chunk here and a chunk there from different organizations. So that's something we're finding, that, we need to bring all of the firm to our clients as opposed to the audit practice or the tax practice. That's something that's changed. Technology is definitely going to change. I mean, we had been quite traditional in terms of you meet your client, you shake their hand, you deal with them, you're selling personality as well as skill and expertise. That's certainly going to be a big challenge. In part of my role, we look after global mobility, sending employees around the world on secondments. Right now, what we're looking at is virtual secondments. So, yeah, I'll be working for KPMG New York office for 2 years or 3 months or whatever. But I could actually be sitting at home doing that. Right. So a lot of challenges there. I mean, part of the attraction in those things is, going to meet the client, be it in New York or Dublin or Cork or anywhere else. It's going to be difficult to build relationships. And I think relationship management is a big thing when it comes down to clients as well. How we do that over technology, that's going to be a heck of a challenge. Yeah. And then there's other challenges coming along about, trust and what the EU thinks of where the market is at and the control that the big four have or haven't got, and should audit be divested from the rest of the firms and all of that. So there are challenges that are out there, and they're very much alive. I think right now what we're hoping to do is adapt and stay ahead as much as possible. But if I look at my time in KPMG, I'm there since 2007. Sounds like a long time now. I'm in my 14th year, but it's changed so much, and sometimes change is gradual, and sometimes it's like this year and it snaps you in, right? But it's always been changing. And as I mentioned earlier on, we're hiring technology guys, experienced professionals, from all different backgrounds. And I guess you do evolve, and what you're trying to do is anticipate the market, and in a lot of cases drive the market in terms of what you want as well. So I think we find that we're always changing, sometimes faster than we want to, but it is a change. I think that's natural in business anyway. So I can't think of any of our clients that haven't had a really difficult year, no matter what it is, because it's been a challenge for everybody. But I think over the next few years, there's a lot of unknowns, no doubt about it. I wouldn't anticipate or try and I suppose understand what they are yet, but it's amazing how quickly people can adapt. Yeah. And I think if you have that philosophy built into your workforce, people actually enjoy that. I mean, normally people fear a little bit of change, but they really enjoy the newness of all of that. And I think if you can support people and from a HR perspective, make sure that the training is there and the supports are there, and our business school is supporting people, whether it's through technology or e-learning or whatever it is, then I think there's confidence there as well that you can respond to anything that comes out there. And it's almost a robustness that's naturally built in.
Yeah. And I think, so when I spoke to you a couple of months back and we were chatting, said, how are you getting on? And you were like, well, it's interesting, and I think there are, and I think it's sort of a mindset thing. So someone might call it, say, career agility. And if you look at the job that maybe you were doing, say, 10, 14 years ago, it's probably quite a different role to now in terms of just the whole process. It certainly is on our side. I guess, though, I mean, and we'll sort of wrap up on this, Paul. You've been very good with your time. Do you think is that sort of a mindset piece, or do you find that are you a regular sort of reader of I don't know, like sort of the workplace culture books, or what how do you stay on top, or is it, do you feel, is it just being able to roll with what's coming and then make the best decisions that you can at the time?
I've often thought about this, and the thing that gets you up in the morning is the fact that your job is constantly changing. So companies like KPMG, they're going to evolve, and that's either for you or it's not. And I often thought about, well, why am I still in KPMG after all these years? I'm sure they're asking the same question. But change is a great thing. And on the face of it, people don't like it, but if you're ready for it, and if you can have that as a mindset and it's part of what you do, and you enjoy the fast pace that it brings, and you look back in the last 12 months of a normal year and think, gosh, we've achieved so much and we're doing things differently, and it's not always higher, faster, quicker, but it's more efficient and it's better, and I think that's, if you're open to that, that's the juice that gets you out of bed in the morning and brings you to the job. I'm not so sure a lot of people want a job that's continuously the same, and I think having that approach where, how can I make my job more efficient, for myself, for my team, and then how can we adapt to what's happening in the market as well? And I think that's really invigorating, and I really enjoy that element of it. And I think that kind of DNA that it's in KPMG, and you inherit it by joining KPMG, and I think you grow with it. And it's the old saying of a rising tide. You do actually rise to that challenge as well. And you look back and you think, gosh, so much has changed over the last 12 months, and so much will change over the next 12 months. And I think just being ready for that, and it's not that you're expecting a tidal wave. Change can be gradual as well. And I think you can see a lot of progress then in your personal development and your professional development if you're open to that.
Yeah, very good. So listen, super to chat, Paul. I think the main piece I'm hearing, so we spoke earlier on the chat about, say, building your network and everything that goes as part of that, and being able then to, articulate your skills and really have sort of deep thought in relation to the direction of your future career. And then I guess just the ability to be able to adapt and embrace change, really, so brilliant. Well, listen, fantastic to chat.